one question for you, Bobby. Like, how much thinking, since like the acquisition is like the end result that you're seeking, like how much thought has gone into like, okay, this is like the EBITDA that we want to get to, and that means that our multiple is going to be XYZ, like in this rough range. Because I've asked multiple people this, and I get a different answer every time about like EBITDA multiples for like paid media focused agencies or like creative focused agencies, like on one end of the spectrum. And I think it just depends on the scale as well, naturally. But like I've heard like you can anticipate like somewhere between like 3.5 and 4.5. And then I've also heard like, no, like once you're like at like $5 million in top line revenue, it should be closer to like 6x your EBITDA. And then like once you're beyond 10, it's closer to 9x EBITDA. So curious what you guys have heard from that perspective.
Yeah, it's funny. We're actually looking at potentially acquiring an agency.
Yeah.
So we've been working with like a buy and sell side broker.
Hmm.
I think those are I think the bands are, and like I also talked to an investment banker that had reached out, not even close to the right size. He had said like, the smallest deal that they'll do is like 5 million EBITDA. I was like, wow, we are ways away, but I
Yeah.
appreciate the call.
But that's
Um,
that's why I get high multiples once you get over $10 million in revenue, because all of a sudden, like the
yeah.
pool of money that's looking for targets, like it's expanding dramatically. Like they will not look at
Yeah.
anything less than 10, right?
But I
Hmm.
mean, I guess outside of, there's other factors, growth rate, industry, clients, team, process, things like that. But those will move you up from what I understand, and never really gone through this process for us. But like, those will move you maybe a couple percentage points, half a time multiplier.
Yeah.
Really comes down to EBITDA and somewhat top line growth. I know Kevin sold his agency, so I'm sad he left. But
Well,
um,
ironically enough, I was slacking him about this while I was starting this call, and then he joined. But yeah,
so
go.
but the multiples that I've heard is like less than a million EBITDA, or at like that size, like SDE is like 2 to 3.
Yeah.
A million, you're approaching like 3 to 5, depending on who's buying you and why. And then, million and a half, 2 is kind of like another break from like still could be 3, or could be closer to, 5x. And then once you get, past 2, you're kind of looking at like that 6 to 8x. Now, you can, are you familiar with Barney? I'll put them
No.
I'll put them in
Yeah.
this chat. They're an agency like M&A service.
Hmm.
And if you go to their menu, they have like a listed now. And you can just look at kind of like what the EBITDAs are. These are usually like smaller agencies, sub 2 million EBITDA, I would say. But you can kind of see like what people are asking for and like the reason why. But that's kind of like the ballpark that I've kind of thought is like,
So,
0 to
so Bobby, you're
1.
looking to buy an agency to do a roll up, just to be bigger.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have one that we're looking at. They're like email specific. They do some things that we don't, and have some potentially some synergies.
Mhm.
I think it's something that we're kicking the can on because we're not planning on selling in the next 12 months, to Max's point. So we're just exploring other opportunities. I think there's some agencies that are, hurting a little bit. So while we continue to at least be stable, if not grow, I think there's some opportunity there, especially if we're planning on kind of holding out for the next 12 to 24 months as well.